Hi, Leo. Welcome to your May 2021 Astro Update. It's Raina here. So, what is happening? Well, as the month begins, you have three planets. No, actually four if you count Uranus. How can you not count Uranus? In Taurus. Okay? And Taurus, if you think about it, is a fixed sign, and you are a fixed sign. And Taurus is a fixed sign ahead of you. Behind you. And that means that it's in the 10th house of career. Okay. So this is like a big area for you at this time as we begin May. May is kind of like a month you can divide into two parts, where the first half is more about moving forward. And then we have an eclipse and we have a couple of retrogrades. And it can be about things changing and things being reviewed and kind of, maybe in some cases slowing down a little bit even. So the sun is in that 10th house, and that's your ruler. And that makes you like either you've had some kind of success or you're just very ambitious at this time. As the month begins, you may be like raring to go into the month of May. And you have Mercury here. And so this can involve, if you're like looking for work, you're talking to people in positions of authority about maybe, being able to get hired. Venus is here as well, and this can be like getting a raise, even like totally unrelated, but like meeting some love interest through your particular career. On the 11th, there's a new moon here, and so there is maybe some new opportunities arising, or you're going into a different field, and you're starting a whole new career, and all of that. Like Mercury can be maybe researching what you're going to do and things like that, or talking to the people that are hiring you, and Venus could be negotiating a salary and that kind of thing. And yet that's happening, but then you're also going to have these planets moving early in the month into your 11th house. Mercury goes into Gemini on May 3rd, and Venus goes into Gemini on May 8th. And so that can indicate that you are getting involved with social things, like you're socializing. Could it be for pleasure? Yes, but there is a possibility that you're doing it for work. Mercury, it's funny because Mercury and Venus, what they might have in common is that kind of schmoozing type of thing where you're talking to somebody, but you're really trying to ingratiate yourself, with Venus, charm them and things like that. Well, sometimes people are doing that because they have they're trying to network, or they're trying to do it for their profession. Or if they're looking for work, they may be, asking friends, people in the groups that they belong to, hey, does anybody have a job opening where you work, and things like that. So kind of making those rounds. Venus in the 11th house can be meeting somebody through your group of friends too. Mars is in Cancer all month long. Cancer is the sign right before yours, Leo. So Mars in the 12th house, I was going to say it's like a fish on a bicycle, but that's that's kind of like disjointed. Basically, Mars is very physical and active. The 12th house is the hermit. It's like if the hermit began, training for a marathon or something. It doesn't mix, let me put it that way. So how this may manifest for you is simply that you are doing something that is, you may just feel like you're antsy, like you can't expend this energy that you have, and could it show up as insomnia? I don't know. The the 12th house is your dream state, but it's also your actions. Now, the 12th house, if you have Mars in the 12th, this is a great time to do things behind the scenes. So if you have some kind of thing that you want to launch, but you don't want to let the cat out of the bag, you might, do things behind the scenes and then see how it, and then debut it and, surprise everybody. And Mars is the libido. So in the 12th house, you might be having some kind of a secret booty call. I know I'm being kind of silly, but things like that. And Leos do tend to be kind of lusty people, horn dogs, right? I don't, even if you're a woman. So just keep that in mind. I talked about the new moon in Taurus on the 11th. On the 13th, Jupiter goes into Pisces. And so with Pisces, we're talking about the 8th house. Now, Jupiter is only going to be in Pisces for a few months. It's going to retrograde back into Aquarius, your opposite sign. So what this means in the 8th house is really having opportunities maybe in the area of psychotherapy. Now, if this is something that you are already involved in with your profession, then it could just simply mean deepening, expanding this knowledge base. But even I would say, even if you are a therapist, and this is my Sagittarian strident nature coming into it, kind of a preachy nature, I would say perhaps like doing something that is, studying something that is metaphysical so that you can employ that in your psychological therapy practice, so that, it's not just about teaching people or counseling people based on the values of this world, but, getting them to understand that they're more than whatever their job title is or whatever it is that their relationship status and things like that. And, the 8th house is the mysteries of the universe. And you can just find like so many riches. Jupiter can even be like financial. So this could be like something where you get like an inheritance, and that sort of thing. I mean, it could be financial money that's coming from, places where you're not earning the money necessarily, and you're still getting the money. But on the more emotional or spiritual level, intuitive level, this could be studying things of a metaphysical nature. Astrology could be the 8th house and the tarot too. And just expanding this knowledge base, having luck with these occult subjects. On the 20th, the sun goes into Gemini, and so the sun goes into the 11th house. This is the 11th house is considered by traditional astrologers to be the luckiest house. That probably has to do with the hopes and wishes aspect of it. And it's also the house of Aquarius in the universal chart. So with the sun here, along with Mercury and Venus, there's a humanitarian angle to it. And this may be represented by the type of work that you're doing, like if it's a nonprofit or if you are volunteering. This could be meeting, I mean, you could even meet a love interest through your volunteer work. Wouldn't that be awesome if you met somebody that way? Because you'd know that their heart is in the right place, to begin with. But just very social too. Very, very social. On the 23rd, Saturn turns retrograde at 13 degrees of Aquarius. So that's your opposite house, opposite sign. Now that's the 7th house of career. I mean, of career. Saturn is the house of career, but Saturn in the house of love, of committed partnership, I mean. So Saturn being in the seventh house for you, and now Jupiter's in the eighth house. Saturn being there alone for a little bit, and actually is going to stay there by itself for the rest of the year. And then Jupiter, and then join. No, it's not going to join Jupiter because it's going to stay in Aquarius through 2022. But I mean, the point being that when it's alone and Jupiter isn't with it in that seventh house, it may be quite challenging for committed partnerships that are not doing so well. So if you have been married or you're living with somebody and you basically have a good relationship, this can actually strengthen that relationship. You may go through some challenging times, but you still can remain together. If the relationship is on shaky ground, yeah, I mean, this could be like the final, this could be the final blow to it, but I don't want to say the word blow because it's really for your highest good. You might be hanging on to something that is not good for you. And yes, Leo being a fixed sign, people like to say, oh, Leos are so loyal, but Leo's a fixed sign. So a Leo person doesn't like change. They may not like the person that they're with, but they like change even less than that. So, that's something that you have to realize. But there might be some let up, actually, with this happening, where you are, where you have like this glimpse of maybe we can make this work. Maybe this isn't going to end. And, sometimes people have unrealistic expectations of relationships too. Some people are like, don't have any expectations and they just allow themselves to be victimized. But on the other end, there may be, a lot of arrogance and assumptions in relationships and thinking that the other person has to either, kowtow to them all the time or do what they want, reflect their values, give them love in a certain type of way that they think that they need. So all of these things, if you have been going through marital counseling, which some of you may have done, this may be a time to kind of like integrate what you've learned, practice it, see if it is going to work. Now, this may even be, though, if you've been working on it by going to counseling, where you say, you know what, I don't know if this is worth it. I don't know if this is really, all this work I'm doing is really leading anywhere. And that could certainly be the case. I mean, when people say, I'm working on my relationship, that alone to me says that there is some kind of arduous task that the person is involved in. Love is supposed to be easy. I know we all have differences that we have to kind of like come to some agreement on, but working hard on a relationship, really what I think that means is that the two people are very different in their goals and maybe their basic personalities, and they just find it very hard to find common ground. And that doesn't mean that either one is a bad person. So anyway, so that's happening. On the 26th, we have a lunar eclipse at 5 degrees of Sag, fellow fire sign, and 5 degrees is a very early degree of Sag. So if you are someone who is an early degree Leo, this will probably fall in the house that you rule, that fifth house. And that can be like, to me, the letting go emotionally of that love maybe that you have. And I mean that in a good way, where if you have been kind of fixated on a relationship and thinking that you need something from that other person, and that's what kept you hooked in, that you're able to finally let go and release that from your life. And that can be a very liberating thing. For many of you, this may actually fall in the fourth house of home and family, and that may have a more psychological, karmic, past, childhood type of an influence, where you're able to let go of some pain. Maybe I'm assuming it would be something more challenging that has to do with your childhood, and that can free you from some of those those hurts that are coming from the past that are no longer a reality for you, that you've just kind of dragged around. This can be a grace. Now, if you have inner planets or the moon in Cancer, which is the ruler of the fourth house, this may be, and Leos can easily have inner planets in Cancer, like Mars, Venus, Mercury, that sort of thing. The moon can be in any sign, including Cancer, or the rising sign too. And if you have any of these placements, like especially in Cancer, that may be even more the case, where you're able to let go, because you may have a more sentimental nature than even the typical Leo, and it makes it hard for you to kind of let go of people, places, and things that you have a sentimental attachment to. On the 29th, Mercury goes retrograde at 24 degrees of Gemini. So in that 11th house, watch for any kind of misunderstandings with your friends, with groups that you belong to. And again, these may be connections that are being made for your career objectives. It doesn't have to be just like your friends. But any kind of misunderstandings. Also, anything that you have put as one of your goals. Sometimes we have our goals fulfilled, and we don't realize that we didn't want that after all, that wasn't really what we wanted. And so that may be revising your goals, because you are going to have a solar eclipse in this sector in June. And so you might be tweaking some of the things that you want to bring forth, because you're not sure that you still have those same goals for whatever reason. So I guess that is all I have for you, Leo. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you'd like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.